Good girl, well done, baby. You can say hi. I feel like it's been a while since you've been in a video. Yeah? You're sleeping a lot more now, aren't you, baby? Little Koopy's getting a little bit older. You're sleeping a lot more. Don't quite have the stamina you used to. Still just as snuggly, aren't you? Wanna come sit on my knee? Yeah? Hi. Hi, Angel. Thank you. Mwah. I appreciate you. I love you. Best friend. Thank you. That's just what I needed. Are you going to help me with my video today? Yeah? I need a co-host. What do you say? Yeah? You want to look in the camera there? Tell everyone what the video's about. Okay, I guess I'll do it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. As you may remember from previous videos I've made, I have always had a little bit of a soft spot for early 2000s reality TV. And one of my absolute guilty pleasures that I still love to this day and will still watch is Wife Swap. Do you remember that? Or are you too young? You're too young, aren't you? Yes. Wife Swap was made between 2003 and 2009, and each episode would feature two families from very different backgrounds who would swap wives for 2 weeks. For the first week, the new wife would live by the rules of the family she was living with, and for the second week, she would implement her own rules and get that family to follow them. On the surface, they kind of played this off as being a bit like a social experiment, didn't they? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. You're so cute. I love you, baby. Should I do that bit again? Yes. So on the surface, they kind of played this off as being a bit like a social experiment to try and understand how other people lived and experience a new kind of life that was different to their own, you know, see a different perspective, all that kind of thing. But as always, when I talk about these old shows, I have to ask how much of it was actually exploiting its participants. And that is what we're going to be discussing today, isn't it, gorgeous? It is. In an attempt to ramp up the drama, Wife Swap would always take things to the extreme. It would swap upper class families with working class families quite regularly, but that was just one example. I always have memories of them taking like working class women and being like, ooh, they have all this fancy stuff, but they're a bit uptight, aren't they? I don't know why all working class women are now from Yorkshire, but there we go. And then the upper class women would go into the working class houses and be like, I don't get why the house is so messy or so dirty. I don't get why they don't get the kids in extracurricular activities. I don't get why they don't go on holidays. I don't get why they don't have nice things. And it was like, well, you know, maybe because the parents are working all the time just to try and like pay basic rent. Maybe because they can't afford to do all that stuff for their kids. Just an idea. I've seen clips where like when we go through like the other's budget for the week and they're like, are you kidding me? Like, this woman spends more in a day than I spend in a month, and stuff like that.
Meet Jason and Nicola, who've been together for 11 years. They live in a 5-bedroom mansion in Wales with their 2 children. Meet Jane and Dave. They live in Newcastle and have been married for 10 years. They also have 2 children. Jason is a financial services manager. He's a high earner who plays as hard as he works, spending an average of 4 hours a night at home alone in his games room.
I'm just an unpaid slave.
A well-paid slave. How can you say you're an unpaid slave?
Bloody unpaid.
If I ask her, right, a normal wife, I would say, excuse me, darling, is there any chance of ironing me a shirt, please? And she would say, yes, husband, of course. Right, however, Nick would say, for a fiver.
No,
Right? Well, no,
So
wouldn't
to
you
be
say
paid-
for a tenner, yeah? So Nick gets paid for everything, and I mean everything, don't you, little sweetie? Everything
Yeah.
Nick gets paid for. She doesn't do anything for nothing.
Do you blame me?
The one thing we agree on is money's nice,
His
isn't it?
money's now. We like spending money.
Dave and Jane McLaughlin believe the key to a happy marriage is love and laughter. Jane works part-time in a charity shop, and Dave works in a canteen. Between them, they bring home £160 a week.
To me, the most important thing is the family and the closest, rather than the money.
The most important thing in the McLaughlins' life are their children. Each wife has left a written manual as a guide for the new wife to run their homes.
Can I buy cheap brands? Always labels. Ooh.
As well as the manual, Jane's also been left Nicola's weekly spending allowance.
Oh my god. This is what she spends.
Got £7 there for travelling. That leaves about 40 quid for food for a whole week. Oh god.
In my video where I discussed how clean is your house, and if you want to watch that, I'll link it on screen somewhere right now, I remember asking the question of, is this poverty porn? Are programs like this just exploiting working class people and their struggles? And I think it's something we really need to think about in the media that we consume. Are programs like Wife Swap and others like it exploiting or villainising working class people? I think a lot of TV and media is definitely guilty of doing that, but I'm not sure Wife Swap is one of them. I think it's very clear that, you know, through the magic of selective casting and editing, they definitely try and create a villain and a hero for each episode, but that's not necessarily always directed at one class or another. I think while they do show people from different classes, they don't have an obvious pattern of poorer family always good, poorer family always bad, anything like that. I think it's very mixed, and it very much comes down to the individuals who they portray as the hero and the villain. And I do think they switch it up a bit, and I think they do quite a good job of showing that some people do grow and change and learn from the experience, and that someone that you might think was a bit of a douchebag in the beginning can actually be quite nice, or they show that someone that you thought was actually quite nice can be a bit harsh at times or stuff like that. So they definitely show the nuances of people and how people aren't just all good or all bad, which is a positive. However, in some cases the differences between the families aren't just class related, but they're more, shall we say, ideological. Like in this example where they put a racist woman with a black family and a somewhat shallow woman with quite a lazy family. Watch some of these clips, they're uncomfortable.
My beliefs and my views are quite traditional. I believe that my job is to provide for the house, to make sure that there's food, money, gas, electricity, and everybody's comfortable. And I believe that my lady's job is to make sure we're all comfortable and that everything's ran properly.
The final decision in the house is mine, however.
The worst case scenario is that she's fat, ugly and smelly and don't keep the place or herself clean. And is a miserable bitch on top of it.
You know, she might be one of these likes of men, muscly and handsome, good looking, fit, keep fit fanatic, goes to the gym twice, 3 times a week. Whereas me, I walk down to the car. That's all my walking involves. Hospitality.
I mean, if he's a real snob that sits in a chair and wears a vest.
Worst thing, if you're black, I will have a big problem. I'm sorry to say. I'm not against coloured people, far from it. But I don't believe in black and white together. And whoever lives here, not English. Definitely. They are definitely from another origin.
When we got in, I found she was a dark lady, which took me back even more surprise. And I thought, oh God, no. What have I let myself in for? Not being funny or rude or...
No.
So, is he the same colour as you?
Yes.
That was the one thing that concerned me, if it was a mixed marriage.
Right.
Then she would go, she's anti-mixed marriage.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And well, that's she's got quite strong views. He's got very strong views.
He did say straight away that she doesn't like mixed relationships. I actually read it out that really she don't like black people. She tolerates them.
At the end of the day, you know, why do you have to mix it?
Right.
And I thought, oh,
He thinks that as well. He actually thinks that.
Ooh, they could be getting on well then.
You know what I mean? So she's now living in the house with a black person who also don't like white people. So that is going to be an interesting scenario. Can you imagine it?
I have to admit, after watching this episode, I actually really like Sonia. I think she's a great woman, very strong, very outspoken. I really liked her. She was like the nicest person in this whole episode. But despite how strong and put together and confident she seems, I still genuinely did like worry for her a little bit, because like imagine if Dee is this outwardly racist, then her family probably is too, and you see one of the children at one point call her a black bitch to her face. And it's like, do you really think sending a lone black woman to sleep in the same house as a family of racists is a good idea? Do you really think that's keeping her safe? It seems dangerous to me. And then in the same vein, Sonia admits that her partner doesn't like white people at all. She's like, yep, he's racist, doesn't like white people. So again, they've sent a lone white woman to sleep in the same house alone on a night with a man who is much larger than her and openly racist and misogynistic.
I'm not telling you crap. If you let me get a word in edgewise, we might get somewhere.
Are you going to speak intelligently?
Yes!
Well, do.
You think all women shouldn't have a right to talk?
No, that's crap.
No, it's crap.
That's
Because
crap.
every time I come out to say something, you stop me dead and start spouting out a load of crap yourself and go into a lecture. So you don't give me a chance to open my mouth before you come down my
tell me
console.
crap.
No, I don't tell you crap.
You do,
I am
woman.
trying to explain to you, if you'll listen, that I am telling
Are you gonna blow blood
Yes, I
vessels?
will. I don't like that. I will never like
It's
it.
tough
I
shit.
don't care.
It's
I
just tough
don't
shit.
care. I will have my say.
Woman,
I
it's
don't care
tough
what you
shit.
do afterwards, but I will say my piece.
Yeah.
Oi!
That is just diabolical.
You're very rude, very disgusting, and very arrogant. If you don't like something, there are diplomatic ways of saying so.
Yeah, fucking smack your mouth.
No, you don't.
So I won't apologise to that black bitch in the front room.
Yes, you will. And don't call her that.
It's true.
Don't call her that. You are a cesspit, child. Aren't you?
Yeah, good, isn't it?
No, it's not good. It's damn disgusting.
So I apologise when I'm ready.
You know, you apologise now.
Well,
Don't get like that with me.
sorry.
Give us a cuddle.
Yeah, me too, Misty.
Oh. Don't I get a cuddle? Don't I get a cuddle? Why? Oh, I forgot. You don't do cuddles, do you, dear?
Excuse me, she does cuddle Sonia. So many things that you have.
So I've got to paint myself black. Okay, I'll go and get some boot polish.
I know there are camera crews there throughout the day and producers and all that stuff, but they're not there all the time. They're only filming for a few hours per day, and they do leave at night, so you kind of have to worry, like, are these women in danger? Obviously nothing happened in these cases. I mean, actually no, the woman was subject to like a bit of racist language, which was not okay, but no like physical violence or anything like that actually happened in these cases, which is good. But you do have to ask, like, what is the vetting process for these families? What do the producers and the crew actually do to keep these women safe? You know? It's all fun and games to watch an episode and be like, ha ha ha, this woman doesn't like doing washing up and now she has to do it for a week. Oh, what a difference. But when it's like, ha ha ha, this man doesn't believe she should be treated as an equal with basic human rights and now she has to be alone with him for 2 weeks. It's not really funny, is it? I'm not sure how entertaining that really is when you think about the actual danger they could have been in. The UK version of Wife Swap is definitely less fake than the American version. It's not scripted like the American version definitely is, but it's still absolutely manufactured drama in the sense that they put certain people together in the hopes that they'll clash with each other and fight and, you know, cause drama and create entertaining TV. But how do the crew and producers actually do that and manufacture this drama while still maintaining the safety of their participants? I'm not sure if they ever really fully thought it through, and that does worry me. The other thing is that a quick Google search will show you that there have actually been a bunch of people kill themselves or end up dead after appearing on shows, and after appearing on shows like this, and Wife Swap is no different. A lot of these people who ended up on programs like Wife Swap ended up being ridiculed or publicly shamed for things that they did, or was shown on TV to do. And so we have to ask the question, when showing reality TV, and especially alternative lifestyles on reality TV, how do we distinguish between content that attempts to educate and destigmatize and content which ends up exploiting and ridiculing? One example of this is from 2008, when a man named Simon Foster, who had previously appeared on Wife Swap, was found dead. Simon and his wife Jane had appeared on one episode of Wife Swap and faced a hell of a lot of backlash because they had a polyamorous relationship. Interestingly, even though they were like, yeah, polyamory is great, we both have girlfriends, blah blah blah, what the reality of the show showed was that they weren't really all that happy together, and the public definitely thought that Jane seemed happier with her girlfriend than she was with Simon. And after the show aired, friends said Simon was absolutely humiliated, and Jane did end up divorcing him and marrying her girlfriend instead, or at least living with her girlfriend long term. And Simon, bless him, ended up losing his job and he became quite depressed. And with all this pressure from everywhere around him and a lot of teasing from the public and everything, he ended up abusing drugs, and then sadly in 2008 he was found dead of a drug overdose. It's not sure if this was an accident or suicide, but undoubtedly the pressure from being on the show led him to addiction in the first place and ultimately led to his death. Now, I couldn't find any clips from this episode, but even so, I'm not really sure I want to show it and add to that problem and add to potentially ridiculing him even more, even though he is sadly already dead. Again, I'm struggling to find a line personally in my own content between educating and exploiting. You know, it's something I have to think about constantly with everything I make, and it is difficult, and it's a very fine line to walk. There were other controversies too. Like in 2003, an episode aired featuring the couple Lizzie and Mark Bardsley. These were a couple who didn't work themselves, but managed to claim benefits totaling £37,000 a year, which is insanely high. This couple did a swap with another family who were just a couple with, I think, one kid, and they worked incredibly hard. They had their own business, they worked very demanding jobs, and they made almost £10,000 a year less than them.
Colin and Emma have been married for 10 years and have 2 children. Meet the Bardsleys, Mark and Lizzie from Rochdale, and their 1-year-old twins, Anika and Anushka. And Casey, aged 11, Elliot, aged 12, Melody, who's 8, Vienna, aged 3, Marky, aged 4, and Saffron, aged 2, makes 8.
We are aspirational, aren't we? We are ambitious. I get that from my parents.
I get that purely from the fact that I've worked hard all my life, and it'd be really nice for us to have something and say, that's ours.
Colin works as a nightclub manager, and Emma has an office job, but they're about to open their own restaurant. In Rochdale, on a council house estate, Lizzie and Mark Bardsley live with their 8 children, 5 of whom are under 4. Mark worked for the council for 14 years until he was laid off 2 years ago.
We haven't got like everything in the world, have we? You know, what we've
Oh
got.
God, each other.
With both of them unemployed, Lizzie has to cope with feeding 10 mouths on benefits.
Very poor shops at Sainsbury's.
Each wife has written a manual as a guide for running their home.
We are both at home, so we both look after the children.
We believe in hard work and do not like people who don't have life ambitions. We are achievers and aspirational.
So nobody works.
To put that in a book for somebody else to come into your house, and it's as if you feel that person's not worthy of coming into your house.
Yes. Interesting. What is your average combined income after tax?
Combined income after tax.
After tax. 37,500 from benefits.
27,600.
Emma seems slightly stunned that the Bardsleys are on £10,000 more than the Sprys.
Oh my word. Interesting.
This caused absolute uproar and so much debate around the benefit system in the UK in general. Now, obviously, the family on benefits got so many benefits because they had a hell of a lot of children. They had 8 children. That's a huge number for any family. And the thing is, I am a big believer that benefits are important and necessary and absolutely should be given to families who need them. I am not ever in favour of, oh, let's cut costs by cutting benefits here and there. Like, I don't think that at all. I'm from a family who had to claim a lot of benefits, like child benefit, when I was a kid because my mum working didn't bring in enough money to feed and clothe us all. There are absolutely families who need benefits, and I will always, always, always support the people who need them and support more money being in the budget to give to the families in need. However, it is also a fact that there are some people who abuse those systems, even though I would argue they're in the minority and it doesn't happen as often as TV would lead you to believe. So we do need to ask, do programs like Wife Swap, especially episodes like this, do these really provide examples of how the benefit system does help families in need, or does it just further demonise people who claim benefits and create more stigma around benefits in general? I honestly think episodes like this do an absolute disservice because it makes people who claim benefits appear lazy and entitled, and, you know, creates this idea of like, oh, they just have more kids so they can get more free money. And I think that's a really, really harmful message to be portraying. And it's interesting because this family that is shown in this episode is one which abuses the system. And so, while I think it's important to shine a light on that, I think it's really important that we don't look at this as an example of what everyone who claims benefits is like. And I think that's a real risk with programs like that. We see one example and we say, oh, well, if they're doing it, they're all doing it. And that's absolutely not the case. So after appearing on Wife Swap, Lizzie went on to do a lot of TV appearances and media appearances and stuff like that, and she made a bit of money from it, which she didn't declare. Kept claiming benefits, not announcing that she'd made all this money, and ended up getting investigated for benefit fraud. She had to pay back a big chunk of the benefits her family had claimed and then do some community service. So like I say, on the one hand, I think it's important to shine a light on these individual families who are abusing the system, but I think that by choosing to feature a family who abuses the system rather than one who actually needs it and utilises it and would suffer without it, I think it does a genuine disservice to working class people as a whole, people on benefits as a whole, just the UK as a whole, really. I think it screws over a lot of people by choosing to exemplify the ones who abuse the system rather than the ones who need it. The other and biggest part of this episode is that it shines a light on Lizzie as a person and how incredibly insecure she is. That is the biggest source of the drama in this episode. Throughout it all, she is absolutely paranoid that her husband is going to cheat on her, and she keeps breaking the rules to phone him up and stuff, and she starts calling the other wife a homewrecker and a bitch and all these other names, and she ends up ending the swap early before they've even done a rule change. So she didn't even make it a week. I think she made it like 3 days or something. There is a lot of drama in this episode, and at the end where the couples meet up, they're just fighting and arguing, and there's more name calling, and it is insane. And again, we have to ask, is it exploitation to derive entertainment from a person who is clearly struggling and in need of therapy?
This is my hairpiece to put on. I'm naffed off because my hair's not this long. Instant, loco. Makes you $1 million. Job's good.
For Colin and Emma, romantic meals out are an important part of the marriage, and tonight it's Lizzie's turn. Earlier, Colin had been showing off pictures of Emma to Lizzie, and conversation turns to how things might be going in the other house.
So now you've seen a picture of Emma, and she's in your household. How do you feel about that situation?
You mean, do I think anything would go on?
That and the whole feeling that you have with actually just her being there.
I don't know whether or not my Mark might find Emma attractive. Oh, well, she's pretty. Emma didn't know whether or not you might find, no matter how much you trust you, another woman in your house is a threat. It is a threat, and I'll be honest, it is. It's a threat, you know, coming into your
You've
house.
got to trust in the relationship, that doesn't come into it, does it?
Yes, it does. It's always in a woman's mind, always.
Right.
I don't know whether or not Emma will come next class at my husband. If she's had a drink, you don't. You do not know what is going to happen. I'm not saying Emma's like that.
No,
I don't know Emma, but I don't know that I didn't know. Emma didn't know whether or not I was going to come in and I was going to do the big slap of walking. You know what I mean? And say, oh yeah, Colin, you know, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but she knows me
You
well
say
enough.
no.
If you trust your fella, then that shouldn't come into
No,
it.
it's not the point. It's you're not there to control the situation.
I just think that you are...
You think I'm picking, you think I'm obnoxious, and you think I'm arrogant. And you don't like me, do you now? I don't think he likes me. And I'm not really bothered. I'm not his precious little Barbie doll that is on a little pedestal. You know, and I'm never going to be that to anybody.
She might be jealous, completely jealous.
What do you think of her?
Not bad, not bad.
You're being nice, aren't you?
Not really, just being myself.
No, you're being nice to her. She pisses you off. Her husband's a right pulse. She's pretty. You think she's pretty?
Not my type, but not really.
She's blonde. She's blonde.
Yeah, no.
So you don't think she's pretty? You don't fancy her?
No, no.
You sure?
Yeah.
She doesn't do anything for you?
No.
That's all right then.
Fucking hell.
Oh, yeah.
The only one woman in my life, and you know who that is.
It's me.
You.
Well, she don't fight off.
No, that's not bad, don't try. What's up? I know I'm talking to you, what's up?
No, just don't talk. Come on, soft kids, start already.
What do you mean, I want to talk about it, what's up? Find it hard.
Life's a bitch, innit? She shouldn't be such a lazy cow at home then, should she?
I'm not fucking pussyfooting around it. Listen, only you tell me what to fucking do. I've got mine of my own, you know what I
I
mean?
know you have, Mark, but I know how nice
I
you
deal
can
with
be.
people in my own way. No, she don't like it. It's tough shit.
But Mark don't find her attractive anyway, so it set my mind at ease and I'm not paranoid, because at the end of the day, you don't know if another woman comes into your house. No matter how much you trust your husband, you don't know whether or not they're going to find him attractive or fancy him or anything like that. But I certainly don't fancy her husband, so Mark's got no problems on that score. But I'm more and more determined to stick these 10 days out than anything now.
Lizzie has been awake all night smoking and fretting about what might be going on in the other house, and the smoking has brought on her asthma.
She's got everything, and I've got nothing. That's the way that it feels.
With the whole outburst in the restaurant, I just think she's jealous. She's jealous that a beautiful woman has gone into her house and she's able to cope with that. I don't think she trusts her husband.
That night, Lizzie calls the other house. She's reached breaking point.
Right. I'll just put you on the phone to it. No. Right, Emma's here now. I've got a message off Liz to say, Emma, you've got to pack your bags and get out of the house now. Right? She reckons you've been doing fuck all, you've ignored the babies, and apparently Liz has been busting a gut down there. She just said that shit and laughed. Said yeah, fucking hell. She said, I don't know what's going into her. She's just gone totally off her fucking head. She's found a bit of background out about Emma. Called her a marriage wrecker. I mean, I don't know the fucking script of her marriage. She's just gone totally off her fucking head, told to get that slag out of my fucking house and pack your fucking bags while you're at it.
At the end of the day, Matt's my husband. He's the father of my children. And I love him to bits, but he's mine. And when I was talking with Colin the other night, it came out about the fact that when he met Emma originally, they were married. And then he said that the marriage, went through a bad patch and Emma was there. And here, presto, Emma and Colin get married. To me, straight away, big red sirens, marriage wrecker. And if I'm honest, I won't say I'm a prude or a very moralistic person, but I don't trust her. As far as I'm concerned, I don't give a toss. If it was 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or whatever, to me, the timescale is totally irrelevant. She's a marriage wrecker, she was a dirty little slapper, and that's how I see it.
And this is something that we do all the time with so much media we consume. This is what we do when we see like drama channels on YouTube and stuff. Often we're deriving entertainment from the struggles of other people, especially their mental health struggles. And on the one hand, we can't deny like, oh, it's quite fun to watch, isn't it? Oh, look at her get angry. Look at her name call. We form these opinions on it. We get interested in it. We get invested in it. But do we ever stop to think, is this exploiting this person? Is this really fair on them? On the one hand, they've chosen to be on this show, they've chosen to behave in this way, they've chosen to put themselves out there. But on the other, did they really ask for this specifically? And is it really fair on them? But going back to the story with Lizzie, things get incredibly sinister when we see she's not just controlling and insecure about her husband, but she's actually been mistreating her kids too. And this isn't something that's shown on the episode, but a few years after appearing on Wife Swap, Lizzie was investigated, arrested, and found guilty of 10 counts of child abuse for hitting and abusing her children. Her 8 children. I'm not sure which ones of them she was accused of like beating and hitting and stuff like that, but it was more than one. And now obviously this isn't directly related to Wife Swap as a TV show, but it does raise a lot of questions about what sort of people we give a platform to. Is there any way to vet this stuff and find out what kind of people they are before we put them on a huge, you know, TV show that is watched by millions of people? And the thing is, while Lizzie wasn't directly shown on Wife Swap with her kids, it does make me wonder if the camera crews did at any point see evidence of this stuff, and if not, why not? How did they miss it? And it also makes me worry for the kid in the other house that she went to. Were those, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 kids, but were those kids in danger too? What if she'd got angry with them and hit them, abused them? What was the TV show in general doing to safeguard those children? You're literally taking a stranger and putting them in a house with a bunch of children. Like, things could go wrong. And this actually leads me to the final point that I want to discuss in regards to shows like Wife Swap, and that is children. Pretty much every family featured on Wife Swap has at least one child, whether they're a baby or teenager or anywhere in between, and they have these camera crews come into their home and follow them around for 2 weeks and show all these intimate details of their life. If the kids get in trouble or have tantrums or get ill or do any of the normal things that normal kids do, that is filmed and shown to the world and on record forever. This must be incredibly difficult and invasive for the kids, and I've read on Reddit posts about how TV programs like this, not just Wife Swap, but just all of them in general, led to kids being bullied at school and being mocked for years to come. And when you look at it, most of these kids are too young to be able to really consent to any of this, and I have to question, why would the parents allow this to happen? Does this mean the kids are being exploited? And what can we do about this? Should there be laws in place for like what we can show on TV in regards to kids and stuff when it comes to reality TV like this? Or like, do the kids get a say? Can the kids have a say? Are they old enough to decide for themselves? Do they have the ability to decide for themselves? It's okay to say like, oh well, the parents okayed it, but what if the parents don't really have the best interests of their kids at heart? Take Lizzie, for example, who was literally beating and abusing her children. I'm not sure I trust her to make the best decisions for her children in regards to if they're filmed and put on TV or not. But yeah, I don't really have all the answers about this, but I do think it raises some really interesting questions, and I'd like to hear your thoughts and discussions about this down in the comments. I'm mostly here with this video to kind of facilitate a conversation and start a conversation and start asking you questions and trying to get you to think critically about the media you consume or that we have consumed in the past, and maybe think about how is this different from family channels today? How is this different from other reality TV and documentaries we see today? Has how we treat different classes and cultures and backgrounds and ideologies changed at all? Has the way we consume media containing children changed at all? Do you think children are treated better or worse now than they used to be on TV and films and so on? They're all questions that I want to pass on to you because I have thoughts, but I don't have the answers. So yeah, please let me know down in the comments. It's always great to hear your thoughts and opinions. Sorry, Kyra's snoring in the background, bless her. She's having a great time. But for now, thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you a hell of a lot. Can't wait to read your comments, and I will see you again really, really soon.